What is the spiritual meaning of crying for Imam Husain? Greetings, brother. This is a question from Brother David from the United States. What is the spiritual meaning of crying for Imam Husain? Very well. Very good. First, let's see. We have an event that has happened, that Imam Husain was a man of God who was martyred. Very well. Once we study it, that is the part of knowledge, which is the intellectual part, how the truth was, how the path of the bad and the good was. The human being is not just intellect, it is also the emotional part, It means that in order to follow a path, it is not enough to know, it is necessary to want. There are two things. Knowing and wanting are two different things. For example, a doctor, he knows that, for example, a doctor knows that smoking is bad, but he wants to smoke, so he will continue smoking, even though he knows it is wrong. Many times we know things, but we do not do them because we do not want to. That is, we do not have enough motivation to do so. What you know, for example, many things are good and many things are bad, is not enough for us to change our attitude. What do we need? We need motivation. We need more than just wanting, more than just knowing. We need to want. We need to want motivation, emotion. So if a person only knows and does not have the emotional part, it is not enough. That is why you will see, for example, that the Zionists in Hollywood teach you to love Zionism. They teach you to love Israel. Loving is something different from knowing. They are not going to present you with arguments to love. That is separate. They teach you to love. That is why you will see that, for example, in Zionist Protestant churches, such as evangelical ones, they are teaching to love Israel. They cry, so that a person has the emotion, sufficient motivation for this. So, what can promote a society? What can be mobilizing and create a social movement is emotion. The largest part of a social revolution is emotion. And the most emotional part of being human, when, for example, a person is very happy, what do? They cry. That is to say, if we are going to say that we have different levels of expressing emotion, the highest level of emotion is crying. A person is happy, smiles, laughs, and then cries. When, for example, a mother after many years goes to see her beloved son, when she goes to hug her beloved son out of great joy, she cries. Why does she cry? Do you see? Because crying is the highest emotion of a human being. The deepest level is truly crying. It is when you cry with wisdom. When you cry, you are marking your heart with that wisdom. When, for example, you cry for Imam Husain, knowing Imam Husain, you cry for Imam Husain, that marks your heart. Then you will have enough motivation and emotion to follow the path of Imam Husain. I will give you an example. For instance, in Iran, in Syria, the fighters before entering battle would cry for Imam Husain, receiving such deep motivation that they were ready to give their lives. Now let's look at ISIS, the terrorists. What does a person who uses intellect do? They do not want to give their life. They say, I want to live. A soldier in battle says, no, I do not want to die. Then he is going to be a cowardly soldier. Do you see? Because he says, I want life, but he doesn't have enough motivation. Nowadays, what do? The terrorists, what do? They are going to drug him. The ISIS terrorists would drug people to give them that artificial emotional motivation, to want to say, how to say, courage. Have courage. But that courage is expressed through music, through drugs, provide emotion through many things, but it is artificial and not intellectual. The emotion received from Imam Husain is intellectual. It is faithful, and it is the power of being aware. The person knows what they are doing. The best way to motivate a believer is to think of Imam Husain and to cry for Imam Husain. Thus, a person can detach from the addiction to sin through the tears for Imam Husain. Therefore, the tears for Imam Husain are a salvation and the only path. A boy can abandon pornography with the tears of Imam Husain. If not, he will return. But when he cries, he will have enough motivation to say no to Satan, to say no to what we can call sin. So, crying for Imam Husain is key. Imam Khomeini always said that the months of Muharram and Safar, the 2 months of crying for Imam Husain, are the 2 months thanks to which we continue with Islam. It means the reason that gives Muslims the motivation to protect Islam. It is thanks to Imam Husain and the months of Muharram and Safar. So it is of great importance. It is not enough to just talk about Imam Husain. Knowledge alone is not sufficient. Knowing is not enough. It does not provide enough motivation to rise up and say no to the oppressors. Iran and the Islamic Revolution is thanks to the crying for Imam Husain. Well, let's move on to the next questions.